1 week lot of storm had passed, or so it seemed. With the Phoenix file exposed and the masterminds arrested, the country slowly began to heal. Investigations swept through government offices. Those who had fed the monster from the inside were dragged into daylight. But Caroline knew something still wasn't right. "We exposed the head," she said to Vincent one evening, watching the news. "But the body's still alive. Something's hiding." Vincent nodded. "We didn't cut deep enough." The letter late that night, Caroline received an unmarked envelope slipped under her door. No name, just a wax seal. Inside was a single page. "He was never the true architect. The real one watches from above. Be careful who you call friend." See, Caroline froze. The penmanship was delicate. The seal-military-grade. She ran to Paul's study. "Dad," she said, placing the letter on his desk. "Do you know who signed this?" Paul read it in silence, then looked up, eyes heavy. "See, that could mean anything. But in our old circles, it might mean Colossus. Who is that?" "Not who," Paul corrected. "What?" "Codename." Colossus. Paul opened a secured safe behind a painting and pulled out a dusty file, stamped. Across the top, classified, "Colossus Protocol. Eyes only." He explained. Colossus was never a person. It was a secret unit. A council of 6 anonymous handlers who operated independently of the government. "You mean like ghosts?" "Exactly. They infiltrated sectors: education, finance, energy, military. No names, only code names. They made Phoenix possible." Caroline leaned back, stunned. "So, the ones we caught were pawns. Dangerous pawns. Yes, but not the architects. The real masterminds are still out there. The false friends." Next day, Adesua called a meeting. She looked concerned. "Caroline, we just intercepted a communication from inside your team." "My team?" she asked. Adesua placed a device on the table and played a voice message. "Keep eyes on her. We move only if she learns about Colossus. If she gets too close, shut it down." Caroline's blood ran cold. "That voice, I know it." Vincent stepped forward slowly, his face changing. "That's Ayres," he said. "My cousin Ayres." Vincent nodded gravely. "He was the one who handled your university funding. The one who coincidentally brought you back to town. He's not who you think." Final scene. The game begins. Again later that night, Caroline sat alone on the veranda. She replayed the voice over and over. The betrayal cut deep. She whispered, "You helped raise me, Ez, and now you're part of this?" Behind her, Paul stepped out, holding 2 mugs of tea. "You've uncovered something darker than we imagined. Are you ready for what's next?" Caroline looked up, fierce and unshaken. "Let's end it. All of it." In the distance, a shadow. Move beyond the fence. Watching. For 8 hours later, the Safety House. Caroline paced the floor of the hidden bunker deep beneath Lagos Island. The walls were thick concrete, the air tight with silence and tension. Across from her, Vincent, Adesua, and General Paul sat with the evidence spread across a large table maps. Intercepted communications, files redacted beyond recognition. On the wall, 6 photos, all blurred faces, coded names, C1, Ember C2, Greystone C3, Ivory C4, Talon C5, Quill C6. Each was a key figure. In the Colossus Council, the secret handlers behind Phoenix. 6 ghosts, no fingerprints, no digital records. Adesua muttered. How do we track people who don't exist? Paul folded his arms. We bait them out. They're watching her. Let's give them something to chase. The Ez interrogation in a secure room nearby, as Caroline's once beloved cousin sat handcuffed to a chair. Caroline entered alone, a storm behind her eyes. Why? She asked simply, as looked up. Calm. I protected you, kept you close to power. You used me, she shot back. You knew what happened to my mother, and you said nothing. Ez exhaled. They told me if I ever said a word, the whole family would be wiped. Phoenix didn't end with Obossi. You're in a different game now. She leaned in. Then tell me what game. Who leads them? He hesitated, then finally spoke. Echo. The 6th, Ez nodded. The only one who knows all the others. Tracking Echo as the new lead. Adesua triangulated Echo's last known movements through a series of deep web financial trails. He was in Geneva last month, she said. But if he's real, he's likely here now. Lagos is their control center. Paul added, Echo isn't just a handler. He's the one who wrote the first Phoenix algorithm, the founder. But no one's seen his real face. Vincent pulled up a blurred image from an old military conference. What if we've seen him, but didn't know it? Adesua leaned in. Enhance that. They zoomed in. The man had silver hair. Tall, sharp features. Caroline gasped. That's the same man who visited my mother just days before she died. The final clue back in her childhood home. Caroline searched through her mother's hidden belongings. She found a journal, pages worn, ink faded. Inside it, a name. Ekin Owolabi, code name, Echo. He came to me again today. He says Phoenix is ready, but I fear him. He says he'll protect Caroline if I cooperate. I don't believe him. Tears welled in Caroline's eyes. You knew, Mama. You tried to stop him. She closed the book. Fire in her heart. Final scene. The trap is set in the shadows of an old embassy building. Vincent made the call, Echo. If you're listening, she's ready to trade. A voice responded through a secure channel. Meet me in the place where it all began. Vincent turned to Caroline. He took the bait. She nodded. Her voice steel. Then let's finish what he started. The screen faded to black. Location. Old Lagos Embassy. Midnight rain was steady. The crumbling building, once an official Nigerian foreign outpost, now stood abandoned. Shadows moved along the broken walls, wind whispering secrets from the past. Caroline stood at the center of the main hall, a single bulb swinging overhead. She wore a black coat, her eyes locked on the entrance. Vincent stood beside her, tense. Hand near his waist, hidden in the corners, Adesua and General. Paul waited, weapons ready, comms active. A door creaked open, and he entered. Tall, silver hair, impeccably dressed. Ekin Owolabi, Echo. Caroline didn't flinch. You came, she said. He smiled faintly. Of course. I always keep my promises. The revealer walked forward, hands open. No weapon in sight. You've grown, Caroline. Just like your mother. Her voice was cold. You killed her. He paused. No, he said softly. She killed herself, trying to protect you. I only gave her a choice. Vincent took a step forward. Choice. You ran Phoenix. You sent her to her death. Echo turned to Vincent, calm as ice. I created Phoenix to save this country, to stop corruption where democracy failed. Your mother, she was my first believer, until she grew afraid of what we had to become. Caroline's voice shook with fury. And now, what do you want from me? Echo smiled. To finish what she started, to lead the next phase. The affair stepped closer, eyes burning with conviction. Caroline, you're a symbol. You returned the money. You refused corruption. You earned trust the old way. If you stand with me now, the others will follow. I will dismantle Phoenix. We will build something better with you as its face. Caroline blinked, stunned. You want me to lead the machine that murdered my mother? Echo's eyes narrowed. She built it too. And now it's yours, if you're strong enough. Vincent whispered urgently. He's manipulating you. He doesn't want peace. He wants control. Adesua spoke over comms. Orders? Should we move in? Caroline raised a hand. No, let him speak. Decision Point Echo stepped closer. You want justice? Then take power. You want peace? Then take command. Or do you want to live in hiding, hunted by men like me for the rest of your life? Caroline's voice dropped to a whisper. You think I don't know what this is? She stepped forward to nose. You're not offering me power. You're testing my weakness. She raised a small device from her coat. A recorder. And now the world will know everything. Echo blinked. Too late. Outside, a drone hovered broadcasting the transmission live. To every satellite channel Vincent had quietly alerted before. This meeting. Chaos erupts. Suddenly gunshots rang from outside. Phoenix men, Adesua yelled. The room exploded into chaos. General Paul returned fire. Echo ducked and ran behind a steel beam. Vincent shielded Caroline as bullets tore through. The air. One of the shooters yelled, "Get Echo out." But Echo wasn't escaping. He pulled a pin. If I fall, the whole council burns. A detonator in his hand. Vincent shouted, "No." Caroline ran forward. Bang. A sniper bullet clean through Echo's wrist. He dropped the detonator. Adesua yelled, "Secure him." Paul and his men rushed in, pinning Echo to the floor. His face finally broken showed no anger, only silence. Closing Senior's dawn broke. Caroline stood outside the embassy. The council files were being loaded into evidence trucks. Echo was cuffed, bleeding, but alive. Vincent walked up beside her. You ended it. She shook her head. No. I only started the real war. Now we rebuild. He looked at her, admiration, deep in his eyes, and I'll be right beside you. She turned to him, tired but unbroken. Then let's begin. Location: National Intelligence Tribunal. 2 weeks later, courtroom was packed. Media crews lined the rear. Former Phoenix officers sat cuffed in rows. Caroline, dressed in a dark blue suit, took the stand. Her voice, though quiet, echoed. With power. My name is Caroline S. I am not here as a victim. I am here as a witness, as a survivor, and now, as a reformer. The prosecutor nodded for her to continue. For too long, corruption wore uniforms. For too long, people like my mother were silenced. But today, truth will not be buried. She presented documents, audio recordings, a video of Echo's confession, each piece, like fire, burning through lies that had held for decades. Gasps echoed. One Phoenix officer tried to stand was restrained. Caroline didn't flinch. They said I was weak, she continued. But they forgot that fire doesn't roar, it burns. Quietly, steadily, until nothing false remains. The counsel Crumbless's testimonies concluded. The judge looked grim. We hereby declare Phoenix an illegal organization. All known participants are to be investigated, tried, or removed from public office. One by one, names fell. Ministers, judges, retired generals. The very fabric of the old system was unraveling. Outside, crowds chanted her name not as a celebrity, but as a signal of new hope. Coraline, Coraline, Vincent watched silently. From the gallery, hand over his chest, Adesua beside him, arms folded. She did it. Adesua whispered. Vincent nodded. No, we did, and we're not done. Nightfall conversation that night, in a quiet cafe guarded by private security. Caroline sat across from Vincent. Her shoulders were tense. Her voice was heavy. They offered me a ministerial seat today. Vincent blinked. Already? I said no. He looked at her. Why? She leaned forward, eyes determined. Because the system doesn't need new faces. It needs a new shape. She placed a document in front of him. I'm starting a civic platform. For youth, for truth, for justice, not politics purpose. Vincent smiled slowly. So what do you need me for? She raised her brow playfully. Chief Strategy Officer. He laughed. I'll draft my resignation in the morning. Meanwhile, in the shadows a hooded figure stepped into a dark room in Brussels. A woman with sharp eyes sat across from him. She was watching the Nigerian tribunal on a screen. She's just a girl, the man said. She's a spark. The woman corrected. A third voice entered male. Cold, robotic over speakerphone. Should I activate asset theta? The woman turned the screen off. No. Let her build. Let her win some ground. She smiled faintly. Then, when her people need her most, we'll take her down from within. Final Senator Caroline stood alone in her apartment, holding a picture of her mother. We're just beginning, Mama, she whispered. Behind her, her phone buzzed an encrypted message. Caroline, they know. Be careful. Trust no one. Adesua, she stared at the message, heart racing slightly. Then she deleted it and whispered, I'm ready. Location, Lagos. 1 week later there was thick. Not with rain, but with tension. Vincent stood outside the civic platform headquarters, Caroline's new movement center. It was buzzing with activity. Young volunteers, journalists, tech workers. Inside, Caroline sat in a glass-walled office, staring at the whiteboard. Names, strategies, maps, slogans like rebuild, don't replace were scribbled everywhere. Adesua walked in, shutting the door gently. You haven't slept? Caroline didn't look up. I'll sleep after the launch. Adesua crossed her arms. Voice tense. You need to know. One of your inner team has been feeding information. Caroline's pen paused mid-sentence. Who? I don't know yet, but I have a lead. The last intercepted message was routed through an EU domain, same tech Phoenix used. Caroline's heart sank. How much have they leaked? Adesua hesitated. Everything about the platform. Donor names, safe house locations, and Vincent's home address. Caroline slowly turned her chair to face her. They're not after our policies. They're after us. Meanwhile, at Vincent's apartment, Vincent stood by the window, phone pressed to his ear. What do you mean I've been compromised? He listened, then cursed under his breath. I need a full sweep. No calls. No emails. Go dark. He hung up and turned to find someone already inside his living room. It was Tari. His old friend. His political ally. And the one person who always smiled too much. Tari? Vincent asked, confused. How did you get in? Tari smiled, setting a wine glass down. Your security is loyal, but not loyal enough. Vincent took a step back, suddenly alert. What do you want? Tari raised his glass. To warn you, you and Caroline are making too many enemies, the kind that don't forgive or forget. Vincent narrowed his eyes. Are you the leak? Tari laughed. No, I'm just the messenger. But listen closely, Vincent. If Caroline doesn't drop the civic platform by month's end, they'll burn everything she loves. One leak at a time. He stood, adjusted his blazer, and added coldly, and you'll be the first to fall. Back at HQ, emergency session Caroline, Adesua, and Vincent now sat together. He threatened me, Vincent said flatly, and he was to come. That means he's not alone. Caroline nodded slowly. Then it's time we stop reacting. Adesua raised an eyebrow. You mean? Yes, Caroline said. We exposed them. She brought out a flash drive. Echo didn't just give us names. He gave us proof. International bank transfers, shell company trails, stolen identities. All linked to Phoenix and to Tari. Vincent sat up. You kept that from me to protect you, she said softly. But now, we go loud. Final scene. Live broadcast. Caroline stood before the cameras that evening. Her voice steady, face calm, eyes determined. To all watching, we are under attack, not by guns, but by deception. Not by armies, but by systems built in shadows. She lifted the flash drive. Tonight, we are uploading documents showing how Phoenix is alive, funded, and worse, protected by people you vote for. The video began streaming across platforms, worldwide. And if anything happens to me, or anyone on my team, this drive is just the beginning. Her final words rang through millions of devices. This is not rebellion. This is recovery. We're not asking for power. We're reclaiming truth. Location, Abuja. Tari's private estate. Tari sat at the head of a long marble table. Around him, men in tailored suits and women with eyes like steel. They weren't politicians, they were architects of chaos, corporate heads, International. Fixers. Ghosts in the system. A large screen lit up with Caroline's public broadcast from the night before. Her words echoed. We're not asking for power. We're reclaiming truth. Tari didn't flinch. She's better than we expected. One man grunted. And far more dangerous, a woman with silver earrings leaned forward. We could disappear her. Tari shook his head. No, that makes her a martyr. We don't kill symbols, we fracture them. He placed a file on the table. The cover read, Confidential. Caroline Easy E-Biographical Anomaly looked around. Caroline doesn't know the whole truth about herself. Lagos, civic platform he Caroline paced in the strategy room. Her eyes locked on a printout from Interpol. Adesua read aloud. Frustrated. So now Tari is blackmailing donors. Our servers were hit last night, and half our volunteers were flagged for security vetting at the airport. Caroline rubbed her temples. They're trying to wear us down, divide us. They know we're close to something real. Vincent entered, holding an envelope. This came for you. No name, no stamp, just this. Inside was a black and white photograph. Caroline stared at it. To women. One was her mother. The other looked exactly like her, but older. Vincent leaned in. Who is that? Caroline's voice dropped. I don't know. On the back of the photo, a single line. Ask your uncle about Oslo, 1996. Back in Abuja. The secret revealed. Tari flipped open a dossier. Photos, DNA records, old embassy files. Caroline's mother was never supposed to leave Phoenix. But there was something more. She was carrying a second identity. He turned the page. Caroline's real father was never listed because he was one of us. Gasps. Around the table. I grinned darkly. That's right. The very blood that fuels her rebellion was born in the same room where we created Phoenix. Later that night, Caroline's apartment sat on her bed, photo in hand, mind racing. The woman in the picture, was she a twin, a clone, a relative? Suddenly, her phone buzzed. Blocked number. She hesitated. Then answered. Hello? A raspy voice replied. You've only uncovered half of who you are. Caroline froze. Who is this? Ask your uncle what happened in Oslo before Tari finds him. Click. Vincent entered moments later, seeing the look on her face. What happened? She stood slowly. I need to go see my uncle. Final scene. Hidden underground location. Tari stood in a steel-walled chamber, watching a surveillance feed of Caroline's apartment. A man stood beside him, face hidden behind shadows. When she reaches her uncle, the man said, It'll all unravel. Tari nodded. Let it. We planted the lie well enough. When she learns the truth, she'll question everything. And then, he turned, smiling coldly. She'll destroy herself from the inside. Location, Enugu. Uncle Dominic's farmhouse. Caroline arrived at the secluded farmhouse just before dawn. The early morning mist hung like a veil over the red earth, and the distant hum of roosters echoed across the hills. She stepped out of the car. Vincent followed closely behind. The door creaked open before she could knock. An older man with tired eyes and a quiet strength stood in the doorway. Caroline, he said softly. You finally came. She nodded, holding up the photograph with trembling fingers. Who is this woman? And what happened in Oslo? Uncle Dominic stepped aside. Come in. You need to sit down. Inside, the hidden history living room smelled of old wood and hibiscus tea. Dominic poured a cup for each of them, his hands slightly shaking. Oslo, 1996. He began, staring into his cup. It was a conference on post-war biotechnologies. Your mother wasn't just a nurse, she was a researcher, a brilliant one. She went as part of the Nigerian delegation. While there, she was recruited by a silent agency working with Phoenix, before it was known as Phoenix. Caroline's eyes widened. Phoenix existed back then. Dominic nodded. Not officially. It was called Project Echo, a global experiment. In predictive genetics, they wanted to create the next generation of leaders, soldiers, minds through selective bloodlines. He handed her a dusty folder. Inside were old documents, some marked classified, others in Norwegian and English. Vincent leaned over, stunned. This is unreal. Dominic spoke carefully. Your mother had a child before she returned. A girl. They told her the baby died during birth. Caroline froze, but she didn't. Dominic shook his head slowly. No, the child lived, and Phoenix took her. Caroline, you have a sister. Elsewhere, Phoenix Research Lab. Location undisclosed, a dimly lit room. A woman in a long black coat stood in front of a glowing monitor. On the screen, Caroline Page, DNA pattern. Known affiliations dot beside her profile. Another face, almost identical, slightly older, sharper features. Eyes with no softness, a single word flashed beneath the image. Delta. The woman turned to an older man beside her. She's activating, just like we feared. The man replied, then it's time. Bring Delta online. Back in Enugu, Caroline sat in silence, piecing it together. She's alive. My sister. They've had her this whole time. Why? Dominic looked pained. Because she was their first successful subject. You were the accident, the free variable. They never expected you to survive, let alone thrive. Vincent stood up. We need to find her before they do something with her. Dominic whispered. They already have. And Caroline, he hesitated, then said what Caroline had feared most. She's not just your sister, she's their weapon. Final scene. Phoenix activation Chambera metallic door hissed open. A figure stepped out. Same face as Caroline, but colder, hardened. No emotion, just purpose. A voice crackled over a speaker. Delta, it's time to meet your sister, she said. Nothing. Just turned and began walking toward the light. Location, hidden Phoenix facility. Deep underground corridor was lined with steel doors protected by keypads and retinal scanners. At the end stood a reinforced door marked Delta-Chamber. Caroline, Vincent, Dominic, and Desua advanced together, flashlights in hand. Vincent whispered, You ready? Caroline's jaw clenched. As ready as I'll ever be. Dominic placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Whatever happens in there, you're not alone. Inside the chamber, the door hissed open into a sterile white room. In the center, Standing under a spotlight was Delta, Caroline's twin. Identical in appearance, but radiating a quiet intensity. She wore a sleek uniform, hands folded behind her back. No fear, no greeting. Caroline stepped forward toward her sister. Delta. Delta's gaze met hers, voice flat. They call me Project Delta. I am Phoenix's final design. Caroline shook her head. You're my sister. Delta studied. Her. I was created. You were born. A clash of ideals, a tense silence. Then Delta's eyes softened slightly. He trained me, taught me to obey. But when I look at you, her voice cracked. I feel human. Caroline took a step closer. You are human. We are the same blood. Behind them, alarm lights flashed as the facility's lockdown was triggered. Dominic hissed. They know we're here. Vincent grabbed Caroline's hand. Time's up. Caroline turned to Delta. Then let me show you a world beyond there. Walls with me. The choice. Delta's expression wavered. The phrase echoed in her mind. Created for control. Born to resist. She looked at the closing bulkhead. Beyond it, their team, their escape. Delta nodded. Lead. Together, the sisters walked toward freedom. New beginning promptus alarms blared and security forces scrambled. Caroline, Delta, Vincent, Dominic, and Adesua slipped into the containment tunnels. Location: Phoenix Containment Tunnels, undisclosed. Facility emergency lights blinked red as sirens howled overhead. Armed guards stormed the upper levels, unaware that the group had disappeared into the ancient ventilation tunnels beneath the facility. Caroline led the way, her breathing steady despite the tension. These tunnels connect to the old maintenance shafts, Dominic explained behind her, flashlight in hand. They were built during the first phase of Phoenix's construction, before they became who they are now. Delta walked silently beside Caroline. Her face was unreadable, but every step she took with her sister was one more away from control and toward freedom. Vincent, walking behind them, kept looking back. How long until they figure out we're gone? Not long, Adesua replied. We have 15 minutes, maybe less, before they reroute the scans. Moments of truth. Reached a fork in the tunnel. The group paused. Dominic pulled out a torn paper map. Left leads to the weapons research wing. Right leads to the old metro shaft and used for over 20 years. Caroline turned to Delta. You've been here longer than any of us. Do you know the way? Delta's eyes scanned the dimly lit fork. Right. There's a rusted security hatch 30 meters down. Beyond that is an old service lift. If it still works, it can get us out. They ran. Dust filled the air, and they metal underfoot groaned with each step. But then, crack boom. A section of the tunnel behind them exploded. Phoenix operatives had found them. Vincent turned and fired 2 warning shots, the tunnel flashing with light. Move! I'll cover the rear. The hatch. Delta found the rusted panel she spoke of and ripped it open with a grunt. Dominic climbed through first, then Caroline. As Delta helped Adesua through. She looked back down the tunnel. 3 Phoenix agents appeared, rifles raised. One of them froze. Delta. It was Dr. Navarro, her former handler. Come back. You're not like them. Delta stared at him. No expression. You're right. Then she slammed the hatch shut and bolted. It got into the lift. The lift creaked as it descended down an old shaft toward the city's forgotten edge. Inside, everyone was quiet. Caroline finally broke the silence. You could have gone with them. Why didn't you? Delta answered without turning. Because this time I chose. Final scene, surface exit. Outskirts of Lake, the lift stopped in the middle of an abandoned industrial lot. A broken fence led them out into the night air. They were free, for now. But above them, a drone hovered quietly, watching. Inside Phoenix HQ, an old man in a white suit sipped tea as he viewed the live footage. He smiled. Let the sisters run. The blood still belongs to us. If you enjoyed this tale, don't forget to like, subscribe to Daily African Tales, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice keeps our stories alive. Special thanks to Mr. Mosin for being part of this storytelling journey.